Here's the problem. Families moving to the Treasure Coast think they're buying to affordability. But once they settle in, things like HOA fees, hurricane insurance, surprise transfer costs start piling up faster than expected. That's why today I'm going to walk you through the top 8 hidden costs buyers overlook. Here's a quick tip before we dive in. Set aside at least 2% of the home price as a safety buffer for these unplanned costs. It's simple, but it can save you from sticker shock down the road. Now let's start with the very first area where buyers feel the gap between what they imagined and what they actually pay. The government-driven costs tied to taxes and closing. Real price tag beyond the mortgage. Most buyers lock eyes on the price for sale sign and feel like they got the budget nailed down. But the real cost of owning a home doesn't reveal itself until the bills start hitting your mailbox. During the open house, nobody's pointing out that the pretty fountain at the entrance or the well-paved roads in a shiny new neighborhood could show up on your tax bill in the form of extra charges. That surprise is where a lot of families realize that their monthly costs don't match what they penciled into their spreadsheet. Here's one of the biggest curveballs. Property taxes and related charges shift dramatically depending on the county. 2 houses that look nearly identical, only 15 minutes apart, can actually translate into very different annual bills purely because of the local millage rate. To make it even trickier, some neighborhoods layer in what they call CDD taxes or community developmental district fees, basically charges that repay the debt for building out infrastructure like drains, streetlights, or even new roadways. These fees are separate from the HOA dues, and in some communities, they can add hundreds of dollars to your monthly bills. That's not an exaggeration, and it's why you can't assume your budget is safe just because you know the listing price. The safest move is to always request a copy of the most recent property tax bill, plus the CDD schedule for any neighborhood you're considering. That way, you're not guessing, but you're looking at real numbers. Closing costs pile up on top of that and often catch first-time home buyers flat-footed. These include things like title search fees, escrow charges, title insurance, property tax prorations. Prorations simply mean you and the seller split taxes for the year. The seller pays for the days they own the house, and then you pay for the rest. Depending on when you close, your chunk could be larger than you expect. Add transfer taxes into the mix now. There are fees for recording the change of ownership that can fall on either the buyer or the seller, depending on the county. And you suddenly got thousands in costs due before you even touch the front door keys. A solid rule of thumb, plan to have at least 2% of the home's purchase price available to cover those unexpected closing line items. It's a simple little cushion that can save you the stress. Think of it like spotting a cheeseburger special advertised for $6. Looks good, but then you realize fries are extra. The soda racks on a couple of bucks, and there's even a charge for using condiments. Suddenly, your cheap lunch doubled in cost. That's how home ownership feels when you discover assessments, prorations, and local transfer taxes that were in your original budget. Buyers often trip over the confusion between HOA dues and CDD fees. HOA keep up the amenities such as the clubhouse, a community pool, security if there is any. The CDDs cover the bigger behind-the-scenes infrastructure that built the neighborhood in the first place. They are 2 completely different buckets of money, and both can be hefty. That's why being clear and demanding clear answers matters so much up front. When you're sitting with an agent looking at property, don't stop at what are the property taxes. Ask 3 very specific things. First, to see the latest property bill tax and millage rate. Second, review a breakdown of all assessments like CDDs along with and how they're billed. And third, who in that county is responsible for paying the transfer tax, the buyer or the seller? These 3 questions can save you from very expensive surprises. Once you've got the government-driven numbers pinned down, the next test of your budget comes from the right inside the neighborhood and your day-to-day living. That's where the bills most people forget to factor in. Utilities, lawn care, child care, HOA dues, start to make Florida living feel very different than what it looked like on paper. Number 3, lifestyle costs that sneak into your monthly budget. Once you're past the government-driven costs, the next layer is really what influences your monthly budget feels day to day. There are the lifestyle costs that sneak in quietly and stick around, and then there's a difference between feeling comfortable in your new home and realizing you're stretched too thin. So let's talk about HOA and condo fees first, because they've become one of the biggest surprises for buyers. In many Florida communities, including right here on the Treasure Coast, association fees have surged. Some places have seen jumps in almost 200% in just a few years. That kind of increase changes a family's budget overnight. The problem is that it's not always obvious from the listing or the initial conversation with your agent. A smart move to request the HOA's financials, their most recent reserve study, and a history of special assessments. If you're looking at a condo, also ask whether the association has completed the milestone inspections and structural reports now required for older buildings. These questions might feel technical, but they'll give you a clear picture of whether fees are likely to hold steady or rise again in the near future. Utilities are another area where newcomers feel the pinch. On average, Florida households see electrical bills anywhere from $142 a month and up. That might not sound so bad, but in the summer in the Treasure Coast is a different story. Your air conditioning almost never shuts off in July and August. Locals have nicknamed as constant cooling expenses the heat tax, and it can push monthly utilities far beyond what you expected. Add the internet, water, sewer, and trash pickup, and the line item that looked like $150 in your budget can turn into $300 or more depending on your home size and efficiency. The best way to prepare? Ask the seller or even the neighbors for a full year of utility bills so you can see the real numbers before you move in. Yard care often catches people off guard too. Grass thrives year-round here, and neighborhoods have standards that usually don't allow you to let things slide. Many families decide to hire a lawn maintenance crew rather than spend every Saturday cutting, edging, and trimming. How much that costs depends on your property size and the level of upkeep. Before you commit, get a few local quotes and ask people in the community what they pay for service. That way you'll know if it's closer to a small monthly expense or something that seriously adds to your housing costs. For parents, childcare and schooling choices can be as financially significant as a mortgage itself. Daycare, aftercare, and private school tuition are often described as mortgage-sized payments because of how large the bills can be. Families moving from areas with strong public school systems are sometimes shocked by the need to budget for these alternatives. The key is to research well ahead, visit schools, and compare tuition rates before falling in love with a house that doesn't fit in your long-term education plan. And then there's insurance, which feels like Florida's unavoidable weather tax. Premiums had jumped sharply in recent years, driven by storm risks, rebuilding costs, and a tough insurance market. Two homes that look identical on the outside can have very different rates depending on age, upgrades, and hurricane protections. When you're evaluating a property, ask the seller for current policy details, request quotes from multiple insurance agencies, and look into mitigation programs like My Safe Florida Home Program. This program offers grants for upgrades like roof reinforcements, impact windows, and those home improvements can lower your premiums while adding safety and long-term value. By the time you add HOA fees, utilities, lawn service, childcare, and insurance together, you're basically stacking up another $500 to $1,000 every month. These aren't optional charges, they're part of the real cost of living here. If you want to stay ahead, here's a quick action step. Pause this video and jot down 3 questions you'll ask when touring homes. 1, about HOA reserves. 2, about utilities. And 3, about insurance premiums. Having those questions ready now will put you miles ahead of most buyers. Here's a quick checklist. Ask for the HOA or condo financials and their reserve study, the seller's last 12 months of utility bills, insurance history along with any hurricane mitigation docs, the county tax bill plus transfer tax rules, and for the condos, the milestone inspection or structural reports. The Treasure Coast is beautiful, but it stays that way when your finances are steady. Comment below which of these 8 hidden costs worry you the most, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more local breakdowns. Understanding these lifestyle costs isn't meant to discourage you, it's meant to help you plan. Buying on the Treasure Coast isn't only about affording the house itself, it's about affording the environments that surround it. And where we need to zoom in and out of, buying on the Treasure Coast isn't about only affording the house itself, it's about affording the environment that surrounds it. And that's where we need to zoom out one last time and think about the bigger ecosystem of costs you'll face here. Buying here isn't only about getting the keys, it's about making sure you can actually cover the ongoing costs that come with daily life. Taxes, insurance, utilities, lawn care, storm prep, they all add up really quick. And the smartest move is to get real numbers before you commit.